Namaste. Today I will be telling you how to file a consumer complaint in a consumer court. यह वीडियो हिंदी में भी रिकॉर्ड किया गया है और अगर किसी भाई बंधु को ये वीडियो हिंदी में देखना है तो वो नीचे गए हुए डिस्क्रिप्शन बॉक्स में लिंक पे क्लिक करके वीडियो देख सकते हैं. In order to file a consumer complaint in a consumer court, it is important that the person is a consumer as is defined under the Consumer Protection Act. As per Section 2(1)(d) of the Consumer Protection Act, a consumer is a person who purchases a product or avails a service for a consideration either for his own use or for earning his own livelihood by ways of self-employment. What is a product? A product may be this camera that I am using to record this video or the laptop that I will be using to render it, so on and so forth. And what are services? Services are any service that I am availing of a doctor, of a CA, any online service that I am availing. But the main point is that the product and the service should be availed or purchased in lieu of a consideration. So consideration is any quid pro quo, any amount that I am giving, I am paying to purchase that particular product or service. Now the consideration may either be fully paid, may be promised, it may be partly paid, and might be partly promised. So for example, if I purchase a mobile phone costing rupees 10,000 and I promise the shopkeeper that I'll be paying him rupees 5,000 or perhaps 10,000 the next month. And during this period, when I have not paid him the entire money or a part of the money, I realize that there has been some defect in the phone. I will still be a consumer under the Consumer Protection Act. Another aspect to be noted while looking into the fact whether a person is a consumer or not is that that particular good should not be purchased for a commercial nature. So let us say I have purchased one camera for taking pictures. I might be a small-time photographer, but I may be earning my own livelihood by it. But if I purchase 100 cameras to deal into it and sell it, I would not be a consumer as it would be engulfed under the proviso of commercial nature. So now the question arises is that why should we approach the consumer court and why not a civil court? So consumer courts are faster than civil courts. The adjudication done in consumer courts are faster than the civil courts. Civil courts usually take more time to decide matters. Then secondly, the consumer courts have ample jurisdiction to grant compensation and interest. So there can be a compensation for mental agony and other sorts of compensations also. For example, litigation expenses can be provided, interest can be provided, so on and so forth. Thirdly, Consumer Protection Act is a beneficial legislation that was created for safeguarding the interests of the general public. So it is presumed that the courts would be more consumer centric and the rights of the consumers will be taken into regard. Fourthly, the procedure of the consumer courts is very simple and it is less cumbersome. A lawyer is always not recorded for fighting cases in consumer courts. You can yourself go and file your own case and you can fight it and win it. The procedure is not at all cumbersome as it is in civil court. The technicalities are not as such present in consumer matters. Fifthly, one of the main reason of approaching the consumer court by a lot of litigants is that the court fee in consumer matters is very less. So for example, if I am filing a civil suit for a property of let us say 2 crore rupees, the court fee would definitely run into thousands of rupees. It varies from state to state. However, in a consumer jurisdiction, as per the Consumer Protection Act 1986, the court fee, if the matter is less than rupees 20 lakh, it will be going to the district forum, and the court fee would be an average of 400 or 500 or perhaps even 200 rupees if your matter is value less than 5 lakh rupees. If you are going to the state commission, that is your pecuniary jurisdiction, is between rupees 20 lakh to 1 crore. The average value of court fee would be somewhere around 2,000 to 4,000 rupees. And if you are going to the national commission, that is the pecuniary jurisdiction of your matter is more than 1 crore as per the 1986 Act, the court fee would be a standard amount of rupees 5,000 irrespective of whether the value of the property or the value of the product is even 10 crore rupees. So this is one of the biggest incentive a person or the consumer has when he approaches the consumer court instead of the civil court. Now that we've already seen who is a consumer and what are the benefits of going to a consumer court as against the civil court, we should look into the fact who can approach a consumer court. So under section 2(1)(b) of the Consumer Protection Act, a complainant has been defined as firstly a consumer, which we've already discussed. Secondly, a voluntary consumer association which is registered under the law. So for example, if there is an association of Jago Grahak Jago, I'm taking a very hypothetical and a vague example. So that person can also, that association is also entitled to approach the consumer court on behalf of a particular consumer or a batch of consumers. Then thirdly, the central government or any state government. Fourthly, the central authority, which has further been defined under the Act. Fifthly, one or more consumers when there are numerous consumers and they are having the same interest. Sixth, in case of a death of a consumer, his legal heir or his legal guardian. And seventh, if a consumer is a minor. So for example, if a person a child less than the age of 18 years, a minor, buys a mobile phone. So in that case, he directly cannot approach the consumer court, but he can approach the consumer court through his legal guardian. So these are the 7 categories of people who can approach a consumer court. Now, what are the steps that we have to keep in mind while we have to file a consumer complaint? So step 1 would be which court or which consumer forum, national commission, state commission should we be filing a case in, because the hierarchy of courts has been divided in the pecuniary jurisdiction. So firstly, we have to estimate the value of the product and the compensation that you are seeking. So let us say that I have purchased a property worth rupees 70 lakh, and the total value of the property is 70 lakh, and there is a delay in delivery of possession, and I am seeking compensation, mental agony, interest, etc., to the tune of rupees 40 lakh. And out of the amount of 70 lakh rupees, I have paid, let us say, only 40 lakh. Irrespective of that, since the value of the property is 70 lakh and the compensation that I am seeking is rupees 40 lakh, the jurisdiction, pecuniary jurisdiction would be, pecuniary value of the matter would be 1.1 crores, and it would go to the National Commission. Second step would be that as per the 1986 Act, before I go on to the second step, I should further clarify that we've already discussed the pecuniary jurisdictions of the court as per the 1986 Act, and till 20, just to repeat it once again, till 20 lakh rupees, the jurisdiction is with the district forum, which is there in every district, almost every district. From 20 lakh rupees to rupees 1 crore, it is with the state commission, and above rupees 1 crores, it is with the national commission. Now moving on with step 2, I have already discussed this right now. As per the 2019 Act, which has been enacted last year, but as on 24th April 2020, it's not been notified and it's not enforced. So the pecuniary jurisdiction has been changed, and also the way the value of the matter is to be ascertained. So matters which are valued up to rupees 1 crore are now to be filed before the district forum. Between rupees 1 crore and 10 crores, it is to be filed before the state commission, and above the matters which are valued above rupees 10 crore are to be filed in the national commission. Now, as I've discussed just a minute ago, that as per the 1986 Act, the old Act, the value of the property is to be taken in consideration irrespective of the fact that whether we've paid the whole amount or not. As per the new Act, the amount which is paid will be considered for ascertaining the pecuniary value of the matter, and also in which court the matter has to be filed. So looking at the previous example, if a property were to be 70 lakh is there, and I have paid only, let us say, 40 lakh rupees, so the pecuniary value would be taken from rupees 40 lakh instead of 70 lakh, which is to be taken as per the 1986 Act. So this information would be relevant for all those persons who are viewing this video after the Act has come into force. Moving ahead, step 4 Step 3 would be to draft a complaint containing of the facts and circumstances, all the facts of the consumer dispute, along with all or any of the allegations which are an unfair trade practice or a restrictive trade practice being done by the opposite party. Secondly, if there are any defective goods. Thirdly, if there is any deficiency in service. Fourthly, if an amount more than the MRP is charged, which is done in a lot of cases, but none of us really go and approach the consumer courts. Fifthly, if any hazardous goods are sold and a proper display regarding the contents, manner and effect of such goods is not given, we can also approach the consumer courts in such a scenario. Now, our fourth step would be a very important step wherein we have to collect all the documents, all the receipts, all the bills, all the correspondences, letters, emails exchanged between the consumer, between you and the opposite party, and we should annex them along with the consumer complaint. We should always keep it in mind that no piece of document should be left behind so that it does not turn back upon us, and we should try attaching each and everything even if it is unnecessary. Not unnecessary per se, but it may not be necessary for adjudication in the matter, because at a later stage it might be so possible that you may not be able to take it as a defense when you go in appeal, revision, etc., etc. Even at this stage of final arguments, the honorable court may or may not allow you to bring in additional documents at that stage. And also you have to make sure that you attach the requisite court fee. So as we've already discussed, the court fee in consumer matters is very low, but you should always keep it in mind that the court fee should be attached appropriately, because if it's not attached appropriately in civil suits, usually the matter is returned and it's rejected. So it is a very important step. It's a very technical step that should be kept in mind, that we have to attach the requisite court fee. Now, fifthly, it's a very simple step. Name the complainant along with his address and name the opposite party with the address. Sixthly, the complaint should be signed by the complainant, and also an affidavit should be sworn in by the complainant. So usually, as a general practice, going on to the sixth and the seventh step, as a general practice, 3 copies are given to the consumer forum. It depends from forum to forum, state to state, to the National Commission. It depends on the practice and procedure, but usually 2 copies are retained by the consumer court and 1 is taken for the opposite party. And that's how we just have to prepare the sets, do the pagination, indexing, make sure you sign the index, in the ending you sign at the complainant's in the last above the complainant's name, and also you swear in an affidavit and append the required court fee before filing it, and you just go to the registry. Every consumer court has a registry where there is a filing counter, and you just go and don't forget to take a receiving from the consumer code, the registry of the consumer code. So once you have, let us presume that the opposite party has filed its reply within the stipulated limitation period of 30 days or extendable period of 45 days, what would be next? So the honorable court would be asking you to lead evidence. So as it happens in the civil courts, you will not be expected to go in the Katgara, and there would not be an examination in chief or a cross examination. Instead, you have to file a written evidence, which is usually in the first person, containing all the facts of the matter. You should always leave out the all the legal aspects from the evidence, and it's called an evidence by way of an affidavit. So basically you are swearing in an affidavit and you are tendering it as an evidence before the court and marking all the exhibits, the documents that you've marked in the attached in the consumer complaint, and if any other document if you wish to place on record as an evidence before the honorable court. So this is the last, perhaps the last chance. It's again the discretion of the court, but it's perhaps the last chance to to file any documents before the honorable court. Now, once the opposite party has also filed its reply, you will also be given a chance of filing a rejoinder. So rejoinder is basically a reply to a reply, and if you want to aver any other further points or to go against or to basically deny the allegations or the facts placed by the opposite party, you may do so in the rejoinder. And Once all the pleadings are complete, then the matter is listed before the Honorable Court for final arguments. So once the matter has reached the Honorable Court for final has reached at the stage of the final arguments, you will be required to conclude your arguments, make all your arguments. Each and every aspect of the matter will be dealt into detail, and you will be asked to make your arguments. So will be the opposite party making its arguments, and the court would either pronounce its judgment there and then, or may reserve its order. And let us presume that the case goes in your favor, and there is a 3-month time period given to the opposite party to comply with the order of the Honorable Court, but Honorable Consumer Court, but the opposite party has failed to do so even after 3 months. So what remedy is available to you? Should you go into appeal, or should you go to the same court? So the remedy, appropriate remedy available with you would be to file an execution application before the Honorable Court under Section 25 and 27. Now, it is a very vast power given to the Honorable Court, Honorable Consumer Tribunals, under Section 25 and 27 to under the execution proceedings. And under Section 27, the Consumer Court has the power of a judicial magistrate of first class under the CRPC, and it can also send the opposite party to an imprisonment for a term ranging from 1 year till 1 month till 3 years, and can also impose a fine of 2,000 to 10,000, and can also attach the property of the opposite party to make good the amount, that is the compensation or the refund or any compensation which is to be paid by the opposite party. Now, another important point to be noted is that the consumer complaint should be filed within 2 years, and from the date of the cause of action. As per the Consumer Protection Act, a limitation period of 2 years is there, in which the complainant should be filing his complaint from the date of the last date on which the cause of action has arisen. So basically, the cause of action means the last date of payment when you have done any last correspondence, or any date of default on which any date of default done by the opposite party. So that is the last date of cause of action. So there is ample time of 2 years that you have to approach the consumer court. Usually, it is advisable that you send a legal notice through your lawyer to the opposite party, because it's always advisable to settle matters outside the court, and a lot of matters are also the opposite party tries settling before the matter reaches to the court by way when you send the opposite party a legal notice. So you should always try sending in a legal notice. If you've already done that and there is no remedy that you are being able to get, so you can any day approach the Honorable Court, and the limitation time period is of 2 years. As per Section 24A now, in case you approach the Honorable Court after 2 years, you can still, the delay done by a consumer, since the Consumer Protection Act being a beneficial legislation, can still be condoned by the court if there is a just cause shown by you. This is an initiative to create public awareness, and the video is done by me. Thank you. Jai Hind, Namaste, Vande Mataram.